Okay. Today, Pundi Karna, one VIP member of my Karna crew, is my featured guest. Ladies and gentlemen, banners and beanies, let me give a big Karna welcome to Sister Dionne C.A. Jones, the Chief Creative at Dijotal Media Agency. In other words, she is the chief cook and bottle washer. Welcome to the Karna, my friend.
Thanks, Uncle Pablo. Good morning, everybody. I there. You know, as you say, take it one for dollar, one for dollar.
That's right, one for
Thanking
dollar.
God for mercies.
One dirty bill down.
One dirty bill down.
That's right. So let me get in to the mecha. Let me get the ball rolling.
In other words, you want to mind my business, all right?
Yeah, a little bit, just a little bit. Because I know
say you're putting my business out in the streets.
Well, it's networking, they call it. Yeah, man. So we can kick things off with the big money question.
Mm-hmm.
Who is Dionne Jones?
What can I say? I'm still evolving. I'm still coming into my full name. Well, AKA Cookie, which my father's called me the other day. My mom tried to call me Cookie and I told her, do not call me Cookie. That was only for my father.
So why did your father call you that?
I don't know. Yeah. I don't know why he used to call me Cookie, but when anybody else call me Cookie, it sounds strange in the mouth and I don't like it. No.
I hear you. Daddy's girl?
Oh, very much so. Very much so.
What was your dad's name?
My dad's name was Lionel Colin Jones.
Lionel Colin Jones.
Yes.
LCJ.
Yes, right. My father worked on most of those ships that you see, especially the Malali that you see on the $20 bill. He was...
is that right?
Mm-hmm. He was a ship engineer at GNEC, which was back in the day, they call it Proudest.
I remember that. Yep.
Right.
Absolutely.
And he worked on all, and we used to find joy when those ships, when they was opening those ships, we used to sail down the Demerara River and come back and eat all the Prostons and Guyana then, which was also my first job.
Okay.
Yeah. So
nice memories. I'm sure you have a lot of stories. But,
yeah.
So that's a perfect segue for my next question is let's talk about your small days.
Oh, and the CA is Carla Allison. So it's
the
Dionne.
CA stands for, okay.
Dionne Carla Allison Jones.
So like a lot of us, you got two middle names.
Yes.
So Jones is your birth name. What is your married name?
If I tell you, you're gonna laugh. Jones.
Get out of here.
Yes.
Wow.
When I met my husband, I told him my last name was Jones. He's like, yeah, better let me check to make sure we are.
Oh my God.
Well, it's nice to do it twice, huh?
I know. That is beautiful. That's almost like destiny, you know.
I know, right?
You got to work
Jones. When I put my first Facebook account was Dionne Jones.
Yeah.
It was like, I was just for fun because no, my name is not Jones. I just kept it. I didn't add on anything. I just kept it the same Jones. So
right. So give me some spice from your small days, man. I know you had a lot of stories. One of the things you mentioned to me in our previous conversation is that you were a tomboy. So give me a tomboy story.
Man, I spent most of my life in Alberttown. I grew up in 2nd Street, Alberttown. Mm-hmm. And though they had girls in Alberttown, big up the Alberttown crew.
Yes, ma'am.
They had a lot of boys.
Mm.
And my brother and I, we were close since, as my mom said, the first time she brought me home and she put me in the crib. He crawled in the crib and laid down and he slept with me. So he has been somewhat of my protector since. But more or less my best friend because we protect one another.
What's your brother's name?
My brother's name is Dexter.
Shout out to Dexter.
When he can't fight, I go in and fight for he.
There you go.
And when I can't fight, I got to tell brother I come in because I used to like to fight. Oh God, I used to like to fight.
Were you a good fighter?
Oh yes.
Yeah. So you didn't get beat up all the time. You do the beating up.
I do the beating up. So all the boys in Alberttown, and I didn't like skirts. I still don't like skirts. So it's me in my short pants, and I didn't like to comb my hair. So you see, now it's long hair, but back then it always bald because I was screaming to get my hair come. My mother so frustrated, she just cut all off.
Cut all off. Okay.
And I was late coming into puberty. So I had a flat chest. So the thing about it is that you look at all, if you line up everybody, you know who's the boy and who's the girl.
Who is who. Okay.
Even when we peeing, the thing about it is that no, you know what? You ain't going home to pee. You ain't going in nobody's house. You're standing up and you're peeing. And you're standing up. So I learned to stand up to pee because the boy is gonna say you're behaving like a little girl.
If you stoop down.
If you stoop down. So everybody standing, and it went so far that we used to have peeing competition. So everybody standing up to pee.
Yeah.
The nice thing about this back then is that everybody was so innocent that nobody ain't doing, you know, it was nice looking back. So everybody just wanted to play.
That
so
was
you
before
stand up.
TV and thing?
Oh, yeah. Well, I didn't grow up with the television. The first TV I had, we had, I was 18 years old. But books were my friends.
Okay. Yes. Yes, absolutely.
Books.
Absolutely.
We had our library of books were so big that my sister had a neighbor. My sister created a neighborhood library. She even had these little library cards where people will come and borrow books from us. And she would have these little library cards and they will borrow and bring back, and sometimes they'll borrow and keep.
Yes.
But we had a lot of books. Anyway, so back to the Tomboy story.
Yeah, man.
All them neighbor yard, we knocking down mango, we climbing trees, we doing everything. And then my mom gets so fed up because there was this prim and proper lady over the road, name was Miss Moore. And my older sister, she was a lady. She is a lady still.
Yes.
And everybody would say, why can't you be more like your sister? Because she, you know, she has skirts and she was a St. Rose's lady. So
and what's her name?
Her name is Dawn.
Big up to Dawn Jones. Yes.
And she's a St. Rose's lady. So everybody like, why you can't be more like your sister? So every time Miss Moore see me and she opens she window, she see everybody, she's shouting at you. I'm gonna tell your mother. And my mother gets so frustrated with the whole complaints that they decide they're gonna hide all my panties. So she hide all my panties. They hide my, what do you think I do?
Bokto.
I put on my brother Bokto. We jumped through. My grandmother had a low window by the bedroom. I jumped through my brother, my brother jumped through the window. We got inside all decked off in my brother clothes, my brother Bokto.
Everything.
And I having a ball.
It sounds like you
anything.
had a really, really good childhood in Guyana.
I did.
All right, so banners and binnies out there, you're watching the Karna, Pablo's Kreolese Karna, the show dedicated to keeping Kreolese alive through music, poetry, storytelling, and edutainment. And my guest today is none other than the Chief Creative at Dijotal Media Agency, Sister Dionne Jones. The woman, the only woman I know or girl I know that stand up and pee. You heard it here from the Karna.
And for the listeners who don't know what Bokto is, Uncle Jamie, please tell them.
Yes, so a Bokto is Kreolese for male underwear, okay? So that's what we call it, a Bokto in Guyana. So only Guyanese that say Bokto, nobody else. And that's why we should be proud of our Kreolese, because it represents who we are. It's part of our culture. As I always say upon the Karna, is the inheritance from the ancestors. So we got to use it, and this show is dedicated to making people use it as much as possible without any concern or anything of the sort. Though don't feel no way, as my friend Alfred would say, just say Kreolese. All right, so my next question is, how did your grounding, those stories you mentioned, your education in Guyana, prepare you for life and success in America?
If I can stretch back on the days, well, they will say the boredom dark days, as many would call it. But when you look back at it, it has made you resilient. And if I can touch back on the fact that I looked at my mother back in the day, my mother, she is a person who back then, she sold everything from rope to soap. She was marketing genius. She started as an Avon rep, and basically my mom, you could take anything and create something.
Nice.
And we had a rice flour. And my mom would create some of the most delicious dishes using rice flour. And I would look at the things that she would make something out of anything. And I looked at her and it has made me, you know, pattern the things that she has done, because if I hadn't experienced those things, I mean, I experienced the days when we used diesel when there was no gas. I see my father convert a kerosene stove into a stove, converted a gas stove into a kerosene stove that burnt like a gas stove. My father was really good with whatever.
Wow. Okay. So a lot of creativity in the household.
Yes, he was.
Yes. So definitely the creative part of you was kind of stoked or sparked by what you saw.
It did. And we endured that time, and it made me independent. So I can basically create with whatever I had. I created something.
You make it work.
Yes. When I left Guyana, I left Guyana to go to live in Trinidad. I left with $100, a suitcase. And I didn't know what I would have been doing next, because I said, look, I can't get a job in Guyana. I am educated and I had a young son and I needed to make life. And I
What year was this?
That was in my son was born in 1997, and that was in 1998. He had just turned, he wasn't yet 2. I left a couple of months before he turned 2.
So hold a minute. Let me frame things for folks who don't understand. Now, I left Guyana in 1983, and things were starting to go. That was already the beginning of that crisis era. So it started like in the early 80s, I would guess 80, 81. Right? So you would have been younger than me at the time.
Yes.
You remember those times when
I remember those times.
How old were you then, roughly? About 81, 82?
81, 82, I was 8, 9 years old.
Okay, yeah. So you did have a good memory.
I stand up in the lines with the bread lines because I was a small one. It used to bore through people's foot to get to the front of Williams Bakery line.
That's right.
I stood up in KSI lines, and of course, it's me and my brother, the kerosene line, all the lines. And then I remember the days when my elder cousin and my brother used to go all the way to Springlands to come back with the little oil and the little Robin Hood flour, which my mother would make stretch for thy kingdom come.
Make it stretch. Yeah. I remember those days as well. Yeah, I was actually a part of that thing.
So it has prepared me for life. Basically, I can, well, I don't want to say cockroach, but I can survive anywhere.
Right. Also gave you the confidence. Well, what I found is that for me personally is that I have the confidence that I can solve problems, right?
Yes.
You know, and so even though they're saying that you got to make lemonade with your lemons. I think a lot of us made lemonade with the lemons.
Yes, we have. Yes, we have.
Absolutely.
And you have to learn the system. You have to know, you have to be aware of what's around you.
Right.
And in Trinidad, I learned everything about Trinidad. I was able to go from, I stood up one day and I decided, look, KFC gonna be it if I can't get a job.
Yeah.
And I remember sitting in Port of Spain looking at the Trinidad Express building, and I'm saying to myself, this is a nice place to work.
Right.
And believe you me, I worked there for 6 years.
Wow. Just
I
like
worked
that.
there for 6 years. Yeah.
So
it was kind of strange because I signed the papers that they had a marketing manager's position.
Right.
And then I did send in an application. I actually took in the application that same day. And then they called me and they told me that they don't have that position anymore. They ordered, they found somebody internally. And if there is a job, which is a sales rep, they know I'm too qualified for the position if I will take it.
Right.
I mean, if I was considering KFC, why the heck I ain't gonna take that?
There you go.
And that's so right. I took it. Yeah. And the interview was one question: what's the difference between marketing and sales? And I answered it, and the guy said, the job is yours if you want it. The job
is yours. Man, I like that. I like that interview. So let's backpedal a little bit. So, of course, you said you were well qualified. So describe your education in Guyana. Like you went to St. Rose's,
actually,
right?
Yes, I went to St. Rose's, but my education was out of Trinidad, out of Guyana.
Okay.
Trinidad Express, as I worked there, I was able to further my education at a Henley.
Gotcha.
the Henley Business School, where I got my
Nice.
graduate degree, and
Oh,
they
nice, nice.
paid for it.
Yeah, they paid the same place that you were watching at
Yes,
and
yes,
end up
yes,
working
yes,
at paid for your education. So that's wonderful,
yes.
man. That's a beautiful thing. That's a beautiful thing.
My
Okay.
family was a great support system because I was a single parent.
Yes.
I left my son with my mother, my brother, and my sister. And I cannot expect better because when I left, he was 18 months. When he came, yes, it was hard. And when he
It's
came, he had
hard,
just
yeah.
celebrated his 4th birthday. But when my mother brought that child to me,
Yeah.
oh my goodness,
He
he
was so
could
happy.
read, he could spell.
Wow.
He was a perfect model child. I didn't have to do
Nice,
anything,
nice,
but
nice,
continue in that
nice.
way.
And
And
what's his name?
his name is Rashik.
Rashik. Shout out to Rashik. Where is Rashik now?
Rashik is here. Rashik is an
Okay.
A1, not only graphics, not graphics designer, but a digital creator.
Nice.
He is an A1 artist. He is on Twitter, and he has done so many great artworks. He's
Nice.
mostly into digital art. That's what he does.
Yes. Yes.
And his dream is to be a computer animator, and he's
Right.
working towards that. And I am so proud of him.
Man.
He excelled in high school.
Yeah.
He excelled at every single thing that he did. So I am proud. And that groundwork that my mother, my brother, and my sister built,
yeah,
I cannot expect any better.
So that exemplifies the maxim, it takes a village.
Yes, it does take a village.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So that's a wonderful story. And I think many of us, many Karna fans and members of the Karna crew can relate to that, because many of us, came from, hardworking mothers. We have hardworking mothers. Some of us didn't have fathers, or fathers were, in my case, my father was had an illness.
Okay.
Let's call it addiction. He was addicted to alcohol. And so that kind of cut his life short. Mm-hmm. So it was really my mom doing everything, the heavy lifting, and other family members. So it took a village as well.
Well, I am thankful that I did have my father present in my life. And it is so important to have a father figure present. My whole thing was to get my mother here and then to go back to Guyana.
Right.
But then about a couple of months after going back to Guyana, I met my husband online, and everything is history.
So you said you were here as in America?
No. I was back in Guyana.
Back in Guyana.
Yes, and I met him online.
You met him online. Okay, great,
yes,
great.
Yes.
Hey man, the internet is a wonderful thing,
I know, right?
People badmouth the internet, but let me tell you, you got to use it to your advantage, right? Yes, there's a lot of negative things, just like life. There's a lot of stuff going on in the world. You go out in the street, there's all kinds of temptations. The virtual world is no different, right?
That's true.
It's a little scarier for a lot of people because it's easy, right? To find stuff, But
you just got to be discerning and be very careful.
Absolutely. So you got to be discerning. So, all right. So you said you met your husband online. Let's talk about him. What's his name?
His name is George.
And where's George from? What part of America?
He is from the Bronx.
From the Bronx, George from the Bronx.
Yes, he's from, and then you said BX, baby.
So a man near and dear to my heart, because being a Brooklyn, I came to Brooklyn. I lived in Brooklyn for a decade or so. And so I spent some time in the Bronx as well as a rep. I used to be a pharmaceutical rep at Pfizer, and Montefiore Medical Center was my account. So I spent a lot of days trying to get them doctors to prescribe Zitramax and Zoloft and all of that stuff.
So you're in the marketing field. I can relate. Well.
Yeah, I can relate to the Bronx and that kind of stuff. So shout out to George, and congratulations. So how long have you been married?
9 years.
9 years.
Yes,
all
we've
right.
been married 9 years. Last March It's 9
All
years.
right.
Well, not
That's
last
nice.
March, a couple of days ago,
A
actually.
couple
The
of
9th of
days
March.
ago.
Yes, the
Well,
8th of March.
yeah. Happy belated anniversary. So
Thank
that's a
you.
wonderful thing. That's a wonderful thing. So it sounds like you and George are doing pretty well. And
Well, that's pretty well as any couple can be. But
there
yes,
you go.
we're hanging in
You're
there.
hanging in there. Yeah.
He is a father in every sense of the word to my son.
Nice, nice.
Because when we
Okay.
got married, my son was 16 years old.
Okay.
And of course, the only father figure that my son knew was my brother.
Right.
So he and my husband, they get along great.
That's
You
a
know,
good thing. 'Cause
sometimes
I
they
have-
have their own stories with their
Yeah.
Batman and their Spider-Man, because they're
Right.
both crazy Marvel fans. I mean, I'm a Marvel fan too, but
Right.
they went to the cinema and they saw Spider-Man and they saw Batman, and they refused to discuss it with me until I actually
Right.
watched the movie. So
Yeah.
they have
yeah.
a great relationship, and I'm so thankful for that. I cannot
That's-
expect any better.
That's a
Yes.
wonderful thing. So when you first came to America, where did you go? To the
So
Bronx?
New York, yes.
To New York. Okay, nice, nice. So what was your first impression?
Well, that was not the first time I went to America.
Okay, so you had been there before.
Yes,
Okay.
yes,
Well, the
yes.
very first time you came, let's go back to that time.
Well, the very first time I came, my first stop was in Florida,
Okay.
because I came through Miami airport, and
You didn't come backtrack like some of we members.
oh
from
God,
the
no.
Hey, shh. You know, we don't talk too hard, you know. We don't talk too hard. I
I
call it no
ain't, you know,
name.
me and knocking nobody struggle. Everybody got their own struggle, and everybody had their own reasons for doing that. And if that was their reason, hey, more power to them.
But you know, you got to do what you got to do, because I remember being in Guyana, like you, I was qualified, that all the O levels and the A levels and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And it's 1979. And then things turned in 1980. And a bunch of guys smarter than me, we're all linemen, there's nothing to do, right?
Yes.
So me and my buddy started thinking about, he said, hey man, we got to get in a ship or something, right? So we used to watch the big boats coming in, the bauxite boats and thing. We would say, man, we're gonna sneak on one of these boats, stow away, right? And go wherever it's going, you know? Those are the kind of thoughts that you had, because you just wanted to get away, you know? And it's a little sad, because it kind of made me into, I guess, a little less patriotic than I hoped I would have been, because all I thought about is, I got to get out of here, right? And that feeling kind of drove me for a while. It wasn't until I really got older and realized that, you know, I owe something to my country.
I always said I grew up when I got my son. I got my son when I was 24 years old. And prior to that, it was just work, and I partied a lot.
Gotcha. Hey, I can tell.
Pick up the Blue Note on
there you
Camp
go.
Street. But my son made me who I am, and he basically gave me a purpose.
Gotcha. I like that.
That's realized that I have to take care. I'm the only parent, even though I had a great support system. I have to do something for him. I wanted him to have I can't say a better life than what I had growing up, but not wanting for anything.
Right. Okay.
And I couldn't at a point in time do it in Guyana. Like I said, I couldn't get a job.
You had to get out.
And I had to get out. I had to see what's out there.
So let's think about the people who are now your age in Guyana, when you were in Guyana before you left. So you're 24, you're 25. How are things different for 24 and 25-year-old men and women, young men and women in Guyana now than it was different?
The fact that they are, to me, I mean, this is my own personal thing.
Yeah.
When I went back to Guyana, and what I'm looking at now in the using social media, of course, they have access to more resources than I had back in the day. Yes. And the fact that it is so much easier to create a small business. I mean, you might not have access to the jobs that you want.
Right.
And I tried to create something back in the day where I was able to print cards and to do, people used to come to my home and I would teach them the computer and teach them the internet, even back then.
Yes.
But it couldn't sustain me.
Gotcha.
But now they have so much more with the opening of the World Wide Web, as we call it back then.
Right.
They have so much more access to resources, to information, that they can create something. And they don't even have to go anywhere. You can sit down in your home now and create a business online. You can have
Absolutely.
a service, you can have a product. You don't even have to have a product that you can go and you can create an entire shop out of a product that is not even yours.
So the internet and the technological era is actually, in many ways, the great equalizer.
Yes, and it plays, yes, it gives up.
If you're not shy.
More advantage.
Right.
You
if
don't
you're not
even,
shy about.
Even if you're shy, you can be behind the scenes and do your own thing, create.
Yeah, but I meant shy in terms of not being afraid of the internet and technology.
Okay. Yes.
There's some older folks, right? Folks my age and older, who they don't want a Facebook account because they got this fear and they don't want to use this, they don't want to Cash App and this and that. So that I'm sure you've encountered those type of folks, right?
I have.
What message do you have for them? How can we get them to understand that this thing is not going anywhere? This is the language of today and the future.
Well, it's set in they're set in their ways,
right.
And I can use my mother as an example. But my mother, she is a curious person.
Right.
She I mean, because of her eyesight now, she wants to learn. And if I tell you, my mother's a Formula One fan. And because I am a Formula One fan, my husband was a Formula One fan until last year with the whole Lewis Hamilton episode. But there are times when even I don't watch Formula One. My mother used to watch an entire Formula One race, and then she will tell me what's going on, and she have names for all these drivers.
Right. So for fans who don't understand what Formula One is, just give us a brief.
Formula One is an international race. It happens from probably about 8 months in every year.
Okay.
And it's with drivers from different countries in the world, and they have some of the fastest cars on the planet. And everybody races for a championship at the end of the time. And the only Black driver in the entire Formula One circuit, his name is Lewis Hamilton, which is my mother's favorite. He's British.
Yep.
And my mom loves watching it because we watched it and she got onto it. She tries to keep abreast with everything. She was an avid reader. And now I have to give her the audiobooks because, of course, she can't see to read as she would like before.
Yeah.
But she likes to keep abreast with what's going on.
Well, that's good.
Everything.
You mentioned the word curiosity. I think that's important. We've got to stay curious. And I admire that in older folks who are still curious and want to learn. So that's a beautiful thing. Let's switch gears now. You are now the CEO, my friend, and chief creative of your own company, Dijotal Media Agency. First of all, congratulations.
Thank you.
As a small business owner myself, I know the road to small business success is long, rough, and winding with enough pothole and thing. But describe how it all started. What was the genesis for this company? And how did it come together?
All right, let me make it quite quick. When I was working at Trinidad Express, I was head of the department at the point in time. I was head of the internet aspect of the Trinidad Express because it was new. We were now introducing that to people who are accustomed to traditional newspapers, and to get them to gravitate from newspapers to internet, it was a feat,
Gotcha.
And it was hard. So we built that department. And what got me upset is the fact that I was doing a great job because we took it from nothing to something. And then they hired someone over me, and I had to train that person to be my boss.
To be your boss.
This is crazy.
That is crazy. It happens quite a bit,
right?
Unfortunately, yeah.
And I was so disheartened with everything, I decided to quit. And I'm saying, I'm making so much money for Trinidad Express. Why the heck can't I do it for myself?
Exactly.
And I have never done this before. I was scared. And I remember there was this guy called Desmond Baxter, God rest his soul. Now, Desmond Baxter, he was a Trinidadian, and somebody put him onto me. I don't know. I can't remember how me and Desmond Baxter met.
Right.
But I didn't know this man was so influential at the time. So he contacted me for a logo, and I created a logo for him with a little meager program that I had. I did a logo in Microsoft Word.
Wow.
Word.
Yeah, I used to use
like
PowerPoint. I did PowerPoint.
I did not like it. Yeah. And I said, Liz, I can just give you this logo. He insisted on paying for it, and I said, no, I don't want no payment.
Yeah.
I didn't know how influential this man was. The man had a cricket team at the time, and he took this logo, and this was a logo for his cricket team. And from that one thing,
yes,
this man put me on to so many different people. He even was able to get my son into one of the most influential schools, schools in Trinidad, because of it was hard. And he was the president of the credit union that adopted this school.
Right.
When I went to enroll my son in this school, they laughed at me. She said, look, we got babies on the waiting list in this school.
Yes.
And I was so dejected, and I was walking out. I saw Venture Credit Union.
Yes.
And I said, wait a minute, Mr. Baxter is the president of this Venture Credit Union. Yeah. Let me go and ask him.
Right.
One phone call.
And that was it.
And that was it. But backtracking, this man was pleased with my work, that he introduced me to movers and shakers in the petroleum industry in all walks of life. So I was doing work. I did the, do you know the crib, the CAC games?
Yes.
I did the website for the CAC games. I did the website. I did work for all of the Trinidad and Tobago National Athletics Association.
So you're freelancing here?
Yes.
Did you start the company then, or
no? I didn't.
Freelancing. Okay.
I was freelancing.
Yes.
The petroleum industry, I did all the work for National Petroleum, National Gas.
Nice.
All the pennants and everything, including Lake Asphalt. And even today, I still have relationship with many of those people. So when they have something done, if they have a conference, they come to me, and I will create their logos, I will create their programs, I will create their websites, and it
not in Microsoft
strength
Word
to
though.
strength.
No.
And I have to credit, there was this young lady called Esther that I worked with. She taught me Photoshop.
Wonderful.
Esther Griffith is her name. She taught me Photoshop.
All right.
And I
Thank you,
forever
Esther
grateful
Griffith.
for her. So yes, Photoshop was my go-to. And as I learned Photoshop, I decided to go on to learn all the different aspects of the complete Adobe suite.
Right.
So I would say a professional in the Adobe suite. And it went from
kind of self-taught with an assist from Miss Esther.
Yes. And I went from one to the other. So I established my company in Trinidad.
Right.
I registered it in Trinidad, and then I traveled to London quite a bit, and I also said, let me just register it in Trinidad, in London, because I had gotten a client in London.
Yes.
And it was the payment was kind of difficult. So I decided to register the company in London, so I'll be able to open a bank account there. Okay. So yes.
All right.
Recently, well, like 6 years ago, I rebranded it, because before it was Jail Business Solutions.
Okay.
And I had it with a friend of mine who was in Trinidad, but then we parted ways, and then I decided I need a new name. So the DI from my first name and the JO from my last name, which was, I put digital, which is a play on digital.
Play on digital. I like that. That's very, very creative of you.
History.
It seems like you were preparing for this position in this company all your life. You know, you spoke about your parents being creative. You spoke about your experiences in Trinidad. You spoke about the influence of these, I call them crossing guards, right? There are people in your life that were placed there, right? And to help you from one side of the road to the other, right? And whether it's Esther or Mr., was it Morgan, his name? the gentleman
Baxter.
Baxter, Mr. Baxter, right? Those are your crossing guards, and we all need crossing guards, and we all need to be crossing guards ourselves.
When I left Trinidad, I went back to Guyana. I worked briefly. Well, I worked briefly with the Karna group of companies.
Right.
I did all of their marketing, their graphics, their websites, and so on. And then that is when I decided, well, of course, I met my husband. I came here, which I had no, I didn't even have that to. I never thought of living in the United States, actually.
Okay.
So, but here I am, and
nice. So you came first. You went to the Bronx, and then let's talk about your move to Atlanta.
Moving to Atlanta because my sister lived in Alabama, and my mom was closer to her since she was the one who was, responsible for doing stuff for my mom in terms of immigration process and so on. Yes. And but it took some time getting accustomed to the entire United States. I mean, coming here for a vacation was fine. I liked it when I came first for vacation, but then settling down into living here, it was a challenge. It's still a challenge.
So what is the biggest challenge?
The basic challenge is getting access to, well, my mom, I would mostly say getting access to stuff for her. It's been a challenge. And small business, the small business atmosphere here, it's very, very much different to that of the Caribbean. And again, while you have access to a lot of online resources, you as an immigrant, you gotta work extra hard to tailor it to what you want to do, or to tailor it to your business. So it's still a work in process.
You add the other issues like race and all of those class issues and all of those.
That was a culture shock. I mean, I know we have race issues in Guyana, but then coming here and seeing a different, can I say a different type of racism?
Right.
But
Speak to that. Like give me a microaggression or macroaggression story that you faced in which you say, oh my God, it's here.
Okay. I can't say it's more of a race thing, but this is something I'm accustomed to. You're growing up, you're always told to be respectful to your adults. So in the Caribbean, in Guyana, you go in morning, and everybody answers you, everybody responds to you. Right. So the very first time I went into an elevator full with people and I say good morning, and nobody answered. Never had any outward racial aggression.
Okay.
But my son experienced it when he was going back to school on a bus.
Where was he going to school? Where?
He was going to school at the point in time he was going to the University of Asheville. University of North Carolina, Asheville. North
Carolina. Okay.
And he was going back to school, and he was on a bus, and the bus went through an army base. And they came onto the bus to check people, and they singled him off and pulled him off the bus. So his stuff was left on the bus, and he was standing there. I don't know what was the point in them doing that. And the bus took off, and I was pissed, and I'm like, where's the bus? I called the bus company, and I'm like, he called me very upset, and I called the bus company, and I'm like, circle around, I need my son back on that bus.
Yeah. That's right.
Right. And the bus eventually went back, and he was able to get back on the bus and get back to school safely. Crazy. But every time my son leaves this house, I am scared.
Man, that's a common thing for many mothers of Black and brown sons in America.
I am scared. And I know that I wouldn't have that fear had we been in Guyana. I mean, Guyana have a share of every crazy thing, but then I wouldn't have been that scared.
Right.
Because I'm seeing what's going on here, and it could be any random white cop or anything. It's just
most people, a lot of folks can't relate to that, especially if you are, of another persuasion, let's say white, And it's the fact that I remember reading a book. There was this young man who was at Howard University. His mom was a doctor, right? And his mom wanted him to go to Yale. And he said, no, Mom, I want to go to Harvard, to Howard University, because that was the Mecca. He wanted to go there because that was the place. He had a lot of friends who were there and he wanted to go there. So this young man went there. And in his sophomore year, I think, his mom got a call from his friend, his roommate, saying that the cops shot and killed him, right? He was on his way home, just coming back to the dorm from a party or something. And something happened along the way and he ended up dead. This only son of a doctor who wanted him to go to Yale.
On the campus of an HBCU.
Yes, close to the campus. He was on his way back from the party, and he was shot to death. And it's one of those cases where the cops just overreacted, had the wrong person, whatever it was, stopped him for, maybe they were profiling him. And they
you fit the description. That's what you always hear.
And he was like, hey man, I'm a student, whatever. He probably gave them some mouth because, I didn't do anything. Why are you stopping me, And it's natural, but for some cops, they don't tolerate any of that type of talk. We Black men and women don't have the right to say, why are you stopping me?
Boy, you're being out of line, boy.
Yes, exactly. I haven't done anything, you know? And so they normally, I guess, it's like, if I stop this Black person, there's going to be something. There's a presumption that there's something going on there that's not, and this was a young man who was a, a fine young man who was doing the right thing, trying to get his education, and he ends up dead.
When we came to this country, I told my son, you're already at a disadvantage.
Right.
You're a man, you're male, and you're Black. So whatever you do, you got to do it 2 and 3 times as hard. You got to work harder.
Absolutely. Yep.
You got to work harder.
I agree.
You take all of the hardest classes, you take all of the challenging classes, and he did. And he excelled at every single one of them. Every single one.
That's wonderful.
Yeah,
I like
at
that.
the University of Asheville, it was a predominantly white school.
Yes.
So he had roommates that did the world. They did everything. And I'm like, focus. You have to be focused, because while they can get away with stuff, you can.
Right.
So do not ever let them put you in a position that it's like, okay, they're in trouble and they're gonna just pull you in with them.
Let's speak to the young Karna fans who are watching the show, especially the young men and women who are probably in their 20s, of college age. What advice do you have for them? What are some of the keys as immigrants or as first-generation Americans of Guyanese parents in this country? What are some of the keys, the foundational things that they need to focus on?
All right. With us growing up, education is always key.
Yes.
Now, back in the day, when you say education is books.
Right.
Right? Books. I have seen, there's a friend of my son who I thought would have been one of the best engineers in Trinidad. Because his parents, and I mean, he excelled in the school where my son went to and everything. And the other day we were having a conversation and I'm like, so what are you doing now? And he's like, I dropped out of school. I'm like, your parents okay with it? He said, no, they're not. What are you doing? He is excelling in photography. He has his own photography business and he is doing excellently.
Right. Where is he?
He lives in Trinidad.
In Trinidad, okay.
But the thing is, my brother, who is engineer by a de facto engineer, because he does everything that is when it comes to engineering. And my father, he's of an engineering background too. And of course, he wanted that for my son. And my son, this is his obsession, robots.
Nice. Robotics. That's big.
Robotics. He loves robotics.
Absolutely.
But his bigger love is digital art.
Gotcha.
And I mean, leave it to my brother. He would have loved my son to be a robotics engineer.
Yes, yes.
But my son's obsession, my son's passion is digital art. My advice to young people would be to follow your passion.
Okay.
It's not always about books,
right?
But a skill that you have, because
a marketable skill.
Yes, not every young person would excel in the school, would excel in the classroom.
Right.
Like my godson in Guyana, he was never a books person.
Right.
But then he got an opportunity to go to Carnegie. And then from Carnegie, she was able to get a job at Pegasus. But now he with the whole COVID thing, he's no longer there.
He's no longer
but
there.
The thing is that he is good with his hands. He's good with cooking.
Nice.
So develop that skill. You have a skill that you like something.
Yes.
Go for it. Develop it.
Okay.
If you're good with the books,
gotcha. Nice,
you head on. You head on with your books.
So follow your passion. Don't necessarily
follow your passion.
Let's follow the path that your parents did, because we're stuck in this formal education mode.
Yes.
And I have a personal story of myself. My youngest son, he was at an Ivy League school at Emory in Atlanta, and he was on this pre-med path. And he decided that, you know what, I'm just going to get my degree and I'm going to go and learn to code. So here he's got this Ivy League bachelor's degree, and he's like, I'm going to learn to code and become a software engineer. And now he's a full stack developer. Speak about coding and your personal journey as a coder yourself.
Yes, I develop websites. And back in the day when we didn't have nice content management systems like WordPress and Joomla and Drupal, it was either you go to the place of publisher, God forbid,
right,
or you learn how to do that from scratch.
I remember.
And again, I had good friends in Trinidad Express that I learned from.
Gotcha.
Right, and I was able to pick up on, because it's not something that I was formally, my background is marketing, international marketing. That's my background.
Gotcha.
But as I wanted to do, I learned about websites because we developed the website for Trinidad Express, and I wanted more. And that point in time, we didn't have WordPress and so on.
Yeah.
And I wanted to know the ins and outs of how it works.
Gotcha.
So I taught myself how to code. I coded in COBOL, Fortran, C++, Python, and all of the relevant computer languages there is right now. I am proficient in it.
Nice.
So it's self-taught.
Yes. So you've brought all of these skill sets that you learned, most of it self-taught, and you've brought it to bear in your role as the chief creative. So talk to us about, that's very laudable. I mean, I applaud you for doing that. It's not an easy thing to be self-taught. You've got to be motivated. You got to have the drive. You know? and sometimes it's hard when you don't have a teacher. You can say, teacher, explain this thing for me. You know what I'm saying? You got to, So that's a testimony of your resilience and intelligence as well, you know.
And I only use it. I mean, there are clients who will approach me with technical parts of a website that you can get from a content management system. And even with the content management system that are basically drag and drop, as you will put it, there are some aspects of it that if you want it to work optimally, you have to know some aspect of coding.
Let's talk about the specific services that your company provides that can help Korner fans with small businesses.
All right. While I do have my share of large companies that I work with, I like to focus and you say, and I recall something that you said earlier about paying homage to Guyana.
Right.
Because that's where we're born, that's our base, and that is where one day I would like to retire and go back to.
Oh yeah, we can talk about that soon. So
yes. So my focus is small businesses. And more importantly, I would love to be more focused on Guyanese small businesses. And at some point in time, I want to do an awareness program of how important it is. Because in the boom that's going on in Guyana now, you're seeing different businesses opening, and I am seeing a lot of little hotels opening in Guyana. And my thought process is, who are their target markets?
Right.
Because if your target market is persons coming in from overseas,
right,
and you don't have an online presence, how are you marketing to them? I mean, social media is great,
right,
but then social media can dictate for you. If for one day Facebook shuts down, or if for one day Facebook decides that they don't want your page on it, what do you do then?
On the platform.
You need to always carve out your small piece of real estate for that. So I always encourage, I want the small businesses in Guyana and further afield to be aware of how important it is to have a professional online presence.
And that's something that your company can provide.
And that is something that we can
provide. So for people who want to say, you know what, I just heard Dionne said that I should have an online presence, and I really want to do it. So how can they reach you?
Well, my website is www.dijotalmedia.com, which is DIJOTALMEDIA.com. And while there are not prices on my website, and I do it for a specific reason, I would like to always have a one-on-one conversation with potential business owners, because everyone is different.
Yes.
And you might not have that large marketing budget. You might not be starting out. And I know the challenges that small businesses go through to get themselves out there. And many of them don't have a marketing budget.
Right.
So I like to work with you to see where with what you have. And there are even times where I create an entire website for free. There is a science that comes along with the colors,
psychology of colors,
with your entire overall branding. And you can't have one color of branding for your logo, another color of branding for your website, another color of branding for your social media. It has to be cohesive.
A scheme,
everything has to flow.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
So these are some of the services that I bring to small businesses. It's a full service company.
Okay.
That I like to focus on small businesses. It's logo, it's branding. Well, logo is part of branding. Marketing, advertising, Googling, SEO. It's getting the business online in a professional way. That's the bottom line.
Now let's talk about your proudest moment as the chief creative of Dijotal Media Agency. What would that be?
Chief creative, proudest moment. Okay, I have to flash back all the way to Trinidad.
Is that right?
While while it's not per se about digital media, it's me as a freelancer. Actually, I had a business then. It was J Solutions back then.
Yes.
I was approached to do a website for an arm of Petrotrin, which was the refinery in Trinidad and Tobago.
Okay.
They had an arm that it was basically a combination of different countries. It was San Fernando Partnership. And it was a partnership with different oil producing capitals around the world, and they came together as one, and they had this partnership, and the Trinidad arm of it needed a website. And I was approached to do the website, and it was a turning point for me. And I spent countless hours on this website, and that was the first website. So I took it to them. They loved it.
Nice.
And then they told me that they're going to be doing a media launch of this website. Ooh, pressure. pressure for bus pipe. Because this is not something that I've ever done. I mean, even though I did the CAC games before, it was not a media launch. It was a media launch for CAC, but they didn't focus so much on the website. So the morning came, I was dressed to my nines in my and I sat there and the whole thing, everybody had the speeches and stuff like that. And then the lights dimmed and the website came up. And the website, the homepage of the website was an oil rig in the setting sun. That was the homepage of the website. San Fernando Partnership.
Nice.
And I can't express how I felt when I saw
it. You get goosebumps.
That's my work.
Wow.
And they went through the pages and then they invited me to come up and to explain about the whole website.
Nice.
And then they
I can feel the emotion in your voice, man.
Yes, and then the lights came back up. And when the lights came back up, two things happened simultaneously. People stood up and started clapping.
Nice.
And then I look around at all these CEOs from these big companies sitting there. And everybody started handing me their business cards. Wow. Business cards. Man. And I remember the first person that handed me his business card, he was the CEO of Lake Asphalt. Wayne Wood was his name.
Okay.
And he handed me his business card and he shook my hand. He said, "Great job, contact me." And people just started handing me their business cards.
So your hard work paid off.
And I'm like, what just happened here?
Yeah.
And I'm shaking hands and collecting business cards, still telling the CEO had to say, "Okay, people, she's available after."
Yes. Yeah. So show me your work, show me the product of your hard work. And if it's done the right way and the timing is right and the place is right, then big things can happen, right? As they did for you. There was something I wanted to touch on that was when you were describing how when you went on the stage and you were talking about your websites, I flashed back to Steve Jobs. And when he would present,
I wish.
For reason that just came to my mind, because I remember he made a big deal of having a presentation when he's unveiling a new product. And
I was nervous.
And just picture him being up there alone, and he's got his pointing to the screen, whether it's iPhone 5 or 6 or 7 or whatever it was that he was unveiling.
Yeah, but he first in that. That was my first.
Right? I know, but I flashed, for some reason that triggered that memory.
Okay.
Of him being on there with a crowd of people, and he has a captive audience. So you had a captive audience for what was being shown, and then when you came on, you had a captive audience. You were the creator of what they just saw. So you had a captive audience for what was being shown, and then when you came on, you had a captive audience. You were the creator of what they just saw, right? And so that's a powerful thing. So congratulations on that. And again, it's Dijotal Media Agency.
Dijotal Media Agency, yes.
Dijotal. And I will share the link on the page, Kreolese Korner 2021 on Facebook.
And I have specials running on my website right now. And for companies who can't, of course, have an upfront payment, I do have payment plans available.
Absolutely.
So they can always contact me. Let me know what is your dream, what you want to see put out there, and I can work with you to get your website out there. For notable one of my creations is the Guyana website.
Yes,
I created the Guyana website, and if you go on my website, you will see some more websites that I've created for chefs, for authors, large companies, small companies. You name it. I've worked in a plethora of industries when it comes to creating branding and websites.
Absolutely. Speaking of chefs, we had a chef on the show, the last show, I think it was show number 14, Carol Batista. She's the owner of Batista of Masala Kitchen in Guyana. And I
Okay.
mentioned your business to her and she said she was interested. So hopefully Carol is watching the show and she will reach out to you at digitalmediaagency.com because she seems to be on the right track with her brand. And yes, go ahead.
And another thing too, speaking about Guyanese food, I have created a website all about Guyanese food, tasteguyana.com. It's an online magazine.
Yes.
And if you go on the website, you will see I featured one Guyanese chef who lives here, and I've just completed. I've just done her book. I created her book in terms of she gave me the recipes, and I did the entire design for her book. Her name is Carolyn Hoyt, and her business is Divine Decadent Catering. But if you go to carolynhoyt.com, you will see I created all her websites, and you will see that book that I created using her recipes. It was her recipes, but I created the entire book in terms of layout and design and so on. So that is what I do also.
Nice.
Own your domain. Don't let a company come, and even though I buy domains on behalf of my clients, when that process is finished, I always transfer those domains to them so they can always be in ownership of their own domains. I don't ever keep ownership of any client's domain. I always pass that ownership on to them because it's important. If something happens and I can't be able to do something, they will always have their domain that they own.
Yes.
And it's very
own your domain. And
own your own domain.
If you have the idea for the domain, then make sure you register that.
Make sure you register it.
Absolutely. Good lessons. You're hearing it from the Chief Creative, Dionne C.A. Jones, Chief Creative of Digital Media Agency, and she's on the Karna today, giving us some insight, talking your business. All right.
Putting my business on the street.
Putting your business on the street. All right. Right. So on a switching gears to kind of a lighter question, we can go into the family thing, right? Like me, your spouse is American. My spouse is American as well. Shout out to Junebug. All right, all the way from Brooklyn. She's from Brooklyn. Your spouse is from the Bronx. So we got a New York connection there. So I'm sure you have many stories of the cultural differences, whether it's food, language, terminology, references, etc., between us Guyanese and we Yankee husband or we Yankee wife. So is there anything that you want to share with the Karna fans today?
Sure. Well, my husband, he's quite familiar with the Caribbean.
Right.
He's been, excuse me.
Yes.
He has been around a lot of Jamaicans his entire life. So he is familiar with.
He's an honorary Jamaican.
Yes, more or less, more or less. But then there's Jamaica and then there's Guyana.
Right, right.
And it's, though we're similar in so many ways, there is a difference.
Yes.
And in Jamaica, you were here talking about the Georgie bundle.
Right.
Or college George.
Yes.
So there were times when I remember the first time I said it, when I was talking to somebody and I was talking about, I was talking about something I was cooking.
Yeah.
And I said, man, look, me don't want to cook today. Yeah, look, I will just put this and I will just put that and call it George. So he was like, there's a guy in this dish named George.
Yes. Who is George?
Right?
In one of our conversations a few weeks ago, you mentioned a word, a Kreolese word that your mom used, right? That's probably not used very commonly today. I'm sure it's not being used. So share that word with the fans and explain what it means.
I don't know if it's a mommy word or I don't know if it's a Kreolese word, but she uses it all the time.
Okay.
And every time she uses it, it got me cracking up. And probably before that, there was another thing that my husband found it funny is when I said something to somebody and I said, I'm going to pack what? Look, why you don't pack up your Georgie bundle and go out today? And that was another thing that he found funny because I was hard to tell him, okay, a Georgie bundle is like when you want to, you pack up everything to just move
right.
On. And that we call a Georgie bundle.
A Georgie bundle.
A Georgie bundle.
Yes. That's funny. Yep.
But growing up, I would always hear my mother using this word puna chewish. I mean,
Puno.
that's
Okay,
me.
let's try to phonetically spell that. Puno.
Puna Chewish.
Puno Chewish. Okay, you're Puno Chewish or what?
Puna Chewish.
Okay.
Now, Puna Chewish basically means somebody who is of small stature,
Right.
or you would say struggling to grow.
Ah, like almost like a runt. I mean, I have an animal science background, and usually, let's say a pig, a mother pig got a bunch of piglets, and they got 10. 9 of them are growing strong, but the little small, we call that a runt.
Right.
The runt, we would say the runt, Puno Chewish.
Puna Chewish.
Puno Chewish. Okay.
Puna Chewish. Every time she said that, it cracks me up. So yes.
Ladies, banners and binnies, you heard it here upon the Karna. The word of the day is Puno Chewish. We're going to wrap things up. It's been a pleasure talking with you today, Dionne, my friend. Any other thoughts or insights you would like to share with the fans of the Karna?
First of all, I would say thank you very much for listening to me. And this is my first in a long time I've been interviewed, and I really do appreciate everything. And if I can put it out there,
yes.
Guyanese with small business that would like to have a small business website, if you come on and you mention Uncle Pablo's show,
the Karna. So the coupon is the Karna.
The Karna.
Yes.
You're going to get a good discount.
There you go. You go.
Thank
you
Uncle
heard
Jimmy
it
for that.
That's right. So you call Dionne, you contact her through our website, Dijotal Media Agency.
And you just mentioned the Karna.
And you mentioned the Karna.
And you'll get a good
spell it right, you see
any
up there?
service. And you got to spell it right there.
Dekarna. All right.
If you put Korner, I am sorry, but you can't get it. It ain't gonna work.
You can't get it. Yeah, man. Well, Sister Dionne, thank you so much for taking the time. I know you've got a lot of things on your hand. And talking your business with we from the Karna today. Because we know so much more about your business than we did before this interview. So I want to wish you all the best to you, your mom, your family, your husband, your son, and your clients. And of course, your business in the future. Right. So thank you again, and walk good, my friend Dionne C.A. Jones. Ayo.